Have you ever felt a subtle pull at the core of your being, as though there was a call you could not quite name? Have you ever awakened in the stillness of morning with an unshakable sense that you were meant for more impact, more growth, more revelation than anyone around you might suspect? If so, do not dismiss that nudge as mere emotion or fleeting imagination. You have been called. This is not hyperbole or a catchy phrase thrown together for dramatic effect. It is a divine invitation, an echo reverberating from the depths of eternity into the fabric of your everyday life. Today, I want you to hear this clearly. God's chosen ones, you have been called. Unveil the truth now. Yes, a divine message awaits you, standing at the threshold of your spirit, ready to fill your heart with understanding, direction, and a surge of holy confidence. Before we journey any further, I invite you to take an act of simple yet powerful faith. Type 777 in the comments below as a visible public declaration that you are willing to listen to and embrace the truth behind your calling. Picture this as more than a mere number on a screen. Imagine it as a spiritual key turning in the lock that has held certain doors in your life closed. When you type 777, you acknowledge that you are not here by accident, that something far greater than your own planning has led you to this exact moment. Think of it as your yes to the divine, your readiness to receive. Now let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt that your life story contains chapters you have not yet read? Perhaps you sense hidden layers beneath the surface, glimpses of possibility that flicker through your mind at random times. Maybe the experiences that once seemed random or even painful were, in fact, guiding points, luminous dots just waiting for you to connect them. Our God is a masterful author, weaving each moment, both joyful and sorrowful, into a tapestry of destiny that surpasses all human logic. Imagine your life as a puzzle whose pieces were scattered across years of hardship and triumph, laughter and tears. The promise stands that these pieces are not lost, that each is essential for forming the picture of who you are and who you are destined to become. If you resonate with these reflections, go ahead and type 777 again. Let that small act be a way of reaffirming each stirring of recognition within you. A method of saying, I claim this sense of destiny. I believe my life has meaning beyond the mundane. The more you do it, the more you anchor yourself in the certainty that you are called to something extraordinary. One of the most profound truths about being called by God is recognizing that your calling does not hinge on your qualifications, your background, or your perceived flaws. Our divine Creator has a long history of choosing the unlikely, the overlooked, and the broken. Moses, who felt inadequate in speech, was chosen to confront a mighty Pharaoh. David, the youngest shepherd boy, was selected to lead a nation. Esther, an orphaned exile, saved her people from destruction. Time and time again, Scripture and history prove that God's chosen ones are not always those with shining resumes or powerful connections. Instead, they are those who open their hearts to hear and obey the voice that says, I have set you apart for a purpose. If you have ever doubted your worthiness, if you have ever wondered, why would God choose someone like me? Then take heart. This is proof that your calling is not about who you are in human terms, but about who God is shaping you to be. We often wrestle with the notion of calling because we live in a world that measures success through external means, academic degrees, career achievements, or public accolades. Yet the divine calling frequently looks different. It resonates from within, an internal alarm sounding at odd moments. You might be driving alone, hearing a song, or simply standing in a busy grocery line when suddenly your spirit whispers, you are meant for something more. It may not always come with a thunderous voice or a dramatic sign. More often it arrives as a subtle yet persistent prompt, an idea you can't shake, a dream that keeps recurring, or an unquenchable passion for a cause. If you recognize these gentle, relentless cues, type 777 now, letting each digit proclaim, I see it, I acknowledge it, I will not bury it beneath layers of doubt any longer. Let's pivot momentarily to a practical realm of understanding. Many wonder how to differentiate between a divine calling and mere ambition. The difference typically lies in motive and peace. When the calling is of God, there's a peace that transcends the obstacles ahead. Yes, challenges arise, but deep down you sense an unmistakable calm urging you forward. You realize that your pursuit is not for self-glory, but for service, for honoring the one who planted this calling within you. You might notice that your greatest joys come from sharing your gifts, not hoarding them, and that success feels empty if it's not aligned with a higher purpose. This doesn't negate ambition. God can use your drive, but it refines it, turning personal ambition into holy aspiration. If this distinction resonates with you, if you can recall moments when your pursuits felt deeply purposeful instead of self-centered, type 777 once more, reaffirming that you choose to let your ambitions be shaped by divine intention. Now let me speak to those who feel uncertain. Maybe you think, I want to believe I have a call, but everything around me suggests otherwise. My job drains me, my relationships are strained, and I feel stuck in patterns that don't reflect any special destiny. Yet often, God stirs the greatest callings in seasons of frustration or emptiness, when life's noise grows so loud that you can no longer ignore the question, is there more? That is often when you stand on the brink of a breakthrough. Think of Jonah. He tried to flee his calling, only to be swallowed by a great fish. The darkest, most claustrophobic place became the birthplace of his obedience. Similarly, a season that feels suffocating might be the spiritual womb from which you emerge, clearer and stronger in your calling than ever before. Take comfort. The God who calls you will also deliver you from the fish's belly, from the dead ends, and from the illusions that tell you you're powerless. If this resonates with your current struggle, type 777, letting each press of the keys be a cry of faith that your present situation is not your permanent state. Perhaps you've noticed that with each step toward embracing your calling, you encounter resistance. Friends may misunderstand you, family members might challenge your decisions, or unexpected setbacks appear like stones in your path. This is normal. Scripture is filled with chosen individuals who met fierce opposition. Nehemiah was ridiculed for rebuilding walls. Joseph was thrown into a pit by his own brothers. The presence of resistance does not signify that you are off track. More often, it signals that you have indeed stepped onto the battlefield of destiny. We have an enemy who would prefer to keep you dormant, quiet, and uncertain. Opposition is a backhanded confirmation that you are on a path that threatens the status quo of darkness. If you find yourself in that tension right now, resisting the urge to quit, type 777 yet again, symbolizing your resolve to press forward regardless of the storm. Let's shift to an example from everyday life to show how these principles can unfold. Picture someone named Sarah. She works in a corporate environment, stuck in a cubicle, feeling under-challenged. On the surface, everything looks stable. She pays her bills, she's respected by co-workers, but inside, her soul yearns for more. She's had fleeting visions of starting a non-profit to help underprivileged youth, but she keeps burying them, telling herself, I'm not qualified. I don't have the money or connections. Then she remembers the moment as a child when she felt compelled to share her lunch with a classmate who forgot theirs, how her heart soared each time she gave. Now, as an adult, she can't shake the memory or the sense that she's supposed to steward a bigger platform for helping others. That is the voice of calling, refusing to be silenced. If Sarah, despite her limitations, takes one small step, maybe researching how to form a non-profit or volunteering on weekends, she begins to see doors open and resources appear. She notices more energy for each day, a glimmer of excitement she thought she lost. That is how calling breathes life into the seemingly mundane. You too likely have your own version of that story waiting to be lived out. Your calling may not be about non-profits. It might be about writing a book, starting a business, entering a teaching field, diving into missions, or being the best parent you can be. The shape it takes is as unique as your fingerprint, but one truth holds for all of us. When you step into alignment with your calling, there is a supernatural grace that descends upon your efforts. It doesn't mean life becomes effortless, but it does mean your efforts become infused with purpose, and your weaknesses become areas where divine strength can manifest. Now let's talk about unveiling the truth, the core message waiting to be discovered. Often the biggest roadblock is not external but internal. It's the reluctance to truly look in the mirror of your spirit, to see the seeds God planted. Fear of change or fear of failure can keep you from acknowledging that your life was intended to be more than mere survival. We numb ourselves with entertainment, busy schedules, or achievements that fail to quench our deeper thirst. Yet in quiet moments the question returns: is there a reason for all I've experienced, all the gifts I sense stirring inside me? The truth is that your experiences, your joys, your traumas, your heartbreaks, your triumphs, they have all been forging a story that only you can tell, a service only you can offer to this hurting world. If that stands out as a revelation to you, type 777. Let each digit breathe affirmation into your soul that your story is no accident, that it's a divine tapestry in progress. At this point, some might wonder, but how do I take practical action steps? First, reflect on your passions, the things that consistently ignite your enthusiasm. Write them down, be it cooking, writing, mentoring, traveling, organizing, or leading. Then ask God to clarify how these passions might intersect with the needs around you. Second, identify any recurring burdens you carry for a specific group of people or a particular issue. Often, the people or problems that stir your compassion or righteous anger are the ones God is calling you to serve. Third, watch for patterns in your personal history. Sometimes the areas of greatest pain become the areas of greatest purpose. That's the redeemed paradox of calling. God can transform your wounds into the very platform from which you bring healing to others. These steps might seem obvious, but weaving them together under divine guidance can produce extraordinary clarity. If you feel led to do this introspection, type 777, committing to practical follow-through after encountering this message. Now, let's address the heart-level transformation that occurs when you finally accept you have been called. Suddenly, every day feels charged with possibility. You become more aware of how you spend your time. You might realize certain habits or relationships are draining you, no longer aligned with your purpose. While it can be bittersweet to let go of these familiar comforts, you do so with the understanding that stepping forward into your calling sometimes requires stepping away from unproductive or toxic situations. This shift is not about arrogance or snobbery, it's about stewarding the gift within you responsibly. You start to see that your life is not just yours, it is entrusted to you for a higher purpose, and every resource, every hour, every relationship becomes part of that stewardship. When you embrace your calling, you also find new authority in prayer. As you pray for guidance, for open doors, for supernatural provision, you stand on a foundation of divine assignment. There is a difference between praying aimlessly and praying with the confidence that you are in alignment with God's will. The Bible promises that when we ask according to His will, our prayers carry power. Aligning with your calling is precisely that, cooperating with the will God set aside for you. If you have already experienced that sense of certainty in prayer, or you long for it, type 777, letting the heavens witness your desire to pray from a place of calling, not mere wishful thinking. But let's be real, illusions can creep in. There's a common myth that a divine calling guarantees immediate success or a grand platform. The truth is, most callings unfold in stages. David was anointed king but returned to tending sheep before he stepped onto the battlefield with Goliath. Jesus spent 30 years in relative obscurity before launching his 3-year ministry. The path usually begins in small, faithful steps. If you've been waiting for neon lights or a worldwide audience, consider that God may be calling you to serve quietly first, to refine your gifts in hidden places. That hidden season is not a waste, it's a necessary greenhouse for your spiritual growth. Embrace it with humility and diligence. If you're in a hidden season and it's wearing on you, type 777 as a public vow to keep going, trusting that God is working beneath the surface. It's critical to talk about faith too. Faith is not a naive optimism that ignores reality. Rather, it's the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of what we do not yet see. When you are called, you learn to walk by faith. This might mean starting a ministry with no guaranteed funding, writing a book before you have a single reader, or shifting careers when logical advice warns you against it. Each faith step you take will be met with new challenges, but also new revelations of God's faithfulness. Over time, your testimony grows. I didn't have all the answers, but I obeyed, and I saw God provide in ways beyond my imagination. If you have experienced or longed for that kind of story, type 777. Let it be a battle cry of your spirit that you choose faith over comfort, obedience over complacency. Now, consider the ripple effect of your calling. When you step into what you are destined to do, you rarely see just how far-reaching the impact may be. You might raise children who become leaders in their own fields, or mentor one student who transforms an entire community, or create a resource that changes the trajectory of countless lives. God's economy is not limited by your vantage point. It is exponential, often revealing the full extent of your influence only in eternity. That's why walking in your calling is also an act of profound love for others. It's not just about you living your best life, it's about the countless souls who will experience hope, healing, and transformation through your obedience. If you're moved by the thought that you can affect lives you may never meet, type 777, reinforcing your commitment to see beyond yourself and your immediate circle. Take a moment now to reflect on everything we have covered. The sense that your life is guided by a plan bigger than your own. The obstacles that prove you are on a path worth fighting for. The necessity for practical steps paired with unwavering faith. The hidden seasons that refine your character, and the unstoppable ripple effect your calling can generate. If even a fraction of these truths have resonated, you are likely someone whom God has stirred for a reason that surpasses your current understanding. You might recall experiences from childhood or even from a year ago that in hindsight appear to be divine breadcrumbs. Do not let them go unnoticed anymore. Sometimes people ask, what if I missed my calling or disqualified myself through past mistakes? The wonder of God's grace is that He can restore lost years, reorient your path, and still lead you to fulfill your divine assignment. He is not bound by your timeline. Moses was 80 when he returned to Egypt. Paul spent a portion of his life persecuting believers before becoming the greatest apostle to the Gentiles. Your mistakes, your detours, do not shock God. If you carry shame or regret about your past, yield it at this moment. Type 777 again, and let it symbolize releasing every chain of condemnation. Trust that God's redeeming power can weave even your failures into the tapestry of your testimony. Another aspect is dealing with the fear of what others may think. Answering a divine call can be lonely at times, especially if the people around you do not share your vision. Even Jesus faced disbelief among his own family. A chosen path sometimes requires forging forward without the applause or full understanding of those close to you. That does not mean you abandon community. It means you allow God to bring new voices of support or to open the eyes of those who once doubted. But never let the fear of others' opinions silence the voice of God in your heart. Type 777 here if you are determined to keep stepping forward, even if the initial path is solitary. Let me give you an everyday illustration. Perhaps a young man named James feels a burden to share uplifting messages online, but his family sneers, saying there's no future in talking to a camera. Yet each time James posts a video, even if it gets only a handful of views, one person messages him saying, "That was exactly what I needed to hear." Over time, that handful of views grows, and the trickle of messages turns into a steady stream of changed lives. James's family might remain skeptical until they see tangible results, but the seeds are blossoming because James obeyed the initial nudge. That's how calling works. It starts small, meets resistance, but perseveres into fruitfulness. If you find yourself standing in James's shoes, or something akin, type 777 now, offering your simple yes to keep sowing seeds even when you don't see the harvest yet. Now, as you approach the close of this message, let the content settle into your spirit. You have been called, Unveil the Truth Now. That truth is multi-layered. It involves acknowledging the seeds of purpose in your own life, understanding the obstacles as stepping stones, and revering the Creator who designed you for more than basic existence. You are not an afterthought in the cosmic plan. You are part of a divine narrative that needs your participation. By reading or listening to these words up to this point, you have effectively answered the door that was knocking at your heart, at least to take a glimpse inside. In the quiet of your room, or wherever you may be, ask yourself, what must I do next? It could be as simple as dedicating 10 minutes daily to prayer or journaling about your passions and burdens. It might be reaching out to a mentor who can help you navigate the early steps of your calling. Perhaps it's about letting go of an unhealthy habit or a draining relationship that's stalling your growth. One small act of obedience can break open the floodgates of divine acceleration. Scripture often illustrates how God meets our humble beginnings with supernatural multiplication. If you're prepared to do something concrete, type 777 as a seal upon your willingness to act, not merely to feel stirred momentarily. Finally, I encourage you to share your journey with others. One hallmark of the chosen path is that it thrives in community, whether online or in person. Your vulnerability might unlock someone else's courage. Someone hearing your story could realize that they too are not alone in sensing this grander destiny. We are meant to walk together, each fulfilling our part in a tapestry of kingdom work that spans the globe. When you share your experiences, you create an invitation for others to explore their own callings. That's how the flame spreads, from one heart ignited to another, until the light of purpose illuminates entire families, churches, neighborhoods, and nations. As you close this message, let me speak a blessing over you. May the Lord who called you from the foundations of the world continue to unveil the truth of your destiny. May He grant you the courage to step boldly through doors He opens and the discernment to recognize doors He has not ordained for you. May your faith flourish in adversity, your heart overflow with compassion, and your mind be enlightened by heavenly wisdom. May every chain of doubt, fear, or shame fall away under the weight of the confidence that you are chosen, called, and deeply loved. And may the life you lead not only bring you peace and fulfillment, but also spark transformation in the lives of countless others. Remember, you have been called. A divine message awaits, and you stand at the precipice of discovering it fully. As you respond with faith, with surrender, and with persistent obedience, watch how heaven's floodgates open over your life. Watch how previously barren ground yields a fruitful harvest. Watch how your eyes open to see miracles in everyday moments, miracles of provision, alignment, and soul-level breakthroughs. Watch how time and space seem to conspire to position you exactly where you need to be, exactly when you need to be there. This is not a fairy tale. It's the reality of a life lived in tune with God's call. If you feel that final wave of conviction, I invite you to type 777 one last time. Let it stand as your climactic yes, your culminating cry of faith that you will no longer ignore or second-guess the calling etched into your spirit. This is your moment to unveil the truth and step into the grand narrative waiting for you. So arise, chosen one, and take hold of the destiny that has been awaiting your discovery. Go forth, trusting that you do not walk alone. God walks with you, arms ready to strengthen, grace ready to cover, and love ready to guide you into the fullness of your purpose. And so it begins. You have been called. Unveil the truth now. A divine message awaits, and it finds in you a willing heart, a bold spirit, and a soul anchored in eternal hope. God bless you as you live out this calling, for the best is yet to come. O One.